Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my review of the original Twilight Zone TV series. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to ways to listen to the show and social media and ways to support the show over on the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And please check out, and also support is never expected, but always appreciated. And so also please check out the links in every episode description, including the link tree to Jen, the Arcane Observer, and her channel, and the links to Michael Strange and the Trouble Minds radio show and network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And I think that takes care of all of that. So we are continuing, starting with season 3 of the Twilight Zone here. And now in this season, they have there's a couple of episodes here in the beginning of this season that they're just mostly suspense. There's not really anything paranormal or unusual or unexplained about them that I can really cover. So we are going to be skipping episodes here and there as we go from now on, I'm guessing. And that's okay. That does happen in shows. They change over time. And they're still all good shows. It's just that I'm not going to stretch to find things to talk about for episodes that don't have much to do with what I cover on this show. I don't think it's a good idea. And so that's the plan for going forward. And it'll help us get through the rest of the Twilight Zone a little bit faster as well. So I figure that'll work. So, and I say that because we're going to skip the first episode of season 3 and move on to episode 2 of season 3. And this is called The Arrival. So, this is about a plane, Flight 107. It's a propeller-driven DC-3 that started in Buffalo, took off from Buffalo. It landed safely at an airport. I believe it was in LA. But anyway, it lands where it was supposed to, but there's no one aboard the plane. And no one knows why or how that's possible for the plane to have landed. Keep in mind, this is back in the 60s. So I don't know what kind of technology there was as far as autopilot and all that. Might not be a ton there. And so there's this mystery. So the federal, I'm not sure what the letters stand for. I could probably look it up. But the FAA sends an inspector named Grant Sheckley with 22 years of experience to investigate this situation. And he's basically has a flawless record. He's been able to solve every problem or mystery that he's come across, and he's very proud of that. So he arrives, and other staff from this airport support him in looking into all this. The vice president, Bankston, the public relations officer or whatever, the head of all that, Malloy, and then a mechanic, last name of Robbins, and then ramp attendant Cousins. Those are the 4 people that help with Grant's investigation. And these 5 people, with 5 people there, you would think they'd be able to figure everything out, but they have no idea how the plane was able to land. And Grant is also bothered by something. The plane, basically the pilots and the passengers' names on the plane are familiar to Grant, but he doesn't know why at first. So the they're basically running into walls with all this investigation. They can't figure anything out until Robbins mentions that the plane, the blue, it has blue seats, which is weird to Grant, who remembers them as seeing them as being brown. Bankston, who was also on the plane, says that when he looked at them, the seats, they were red. So when they go and look at the tail of the plane, each one sees a different registration number on the tail of the plane. And so Grant decides to, comes to this decision and this realization. Doesn't make sense to him, but it's the only thing that kind of maybe makes sense in a way. And that is that the plane is not real. It's an illusion that each of them has imagined somehow. And of course, this plays on the idea of mind over matter, of manifesting things with the mind. And of course, that doesn't happen with every single thing that people do, but that does happen sometimes when they really try on things. And I think also in anomalous cases, it happens when they don't expect it. But so to prove this, and also to break the illusion, Grant suggests a test, and he tells the staff there to start the plane, and he says that he will put his arm in the path of the propeller that runs the plane. And despite everyone objecting, he convinces them to do this. And so Robbins starts the plane's engines, and after hesitating a little bit, because Grant is kind of still freaked out by all this, he puts his arm directly into the path of the propeller. And his arm is fine. And the propeller and the plane vanishes. And so Grant turns to face the others, and he finds that there's no one there. And they all disappear, just as the plane did. So he tries to search the area for all these other employees and calls out their names. And he goes back to the operations room where he finds Bankston, the vice president, and Malloy. And they have no memory of what happened in the entire story so far. And they also have no idea that Grant was there investigating everything. And so at this point, Grant starts to become really worried and really confused and doesn't know what's going on. And at first he thinks that the people there, Bankston and all the staff, are playing a game with him. So he asks Bankston what's going on, and Bankston says that Flight 107 landed safely with the whole crew and passengers and everything safely, and even shows a newspaper article to prove it. But as Grant continues to try to figure out what's going on, because he has this memory of losing Flight 107, Bankston that remembers the only plane that the airline ever lost was a Flight 107, but it was 17 or 18 years earlier. And the case was never solved. And the investigator was Grant. And he had completely blocked it out of his mind all this time until this happened. And he didn't make a statement and a file on the case, and closed it, saying it was presumed crashed for reasons unknown at sea. But he never really did prove that. And so Grant leaves the office, and as he tries to figure out what's going on and why everything, what happened to the plane and the people that he thought were there that weren't, and he in the end of the show he hears a plane passing overhead, and he just collapses, and that's the end of the show. And not so much collapses as dead, just exhausted and totally confused about what reality is. So it's a really good show, and it does sort of. I could see people thinking that it was the illusion thing was sort of a weird idea. This idea of the mind being responsible for all of these things that seem like normal things. And so I can see people thinking it was just a weird idea, not much to it, probably just fiction. But there's this whole idea of thought forms and just the idea of, I've talked about this before, how there are some places that are said to be haunted, that have paranormal activity in them, and there's legends that that explain who the people are that are haunting these places. But in some cases, there's no historical evidence to support the legend. And yet people are still seeing these figures. And the idea there is all this focusing of countless people, their minds on this story, somehow either created a being, or a being somehow picked up on all this and used all this energy to appear as the figure from the legend. So sort of a side note there, but still somewhat related. And yeah, that's the episode there. So it was done really well, and it's kind of knowing sort of what I do now about like TV. I was sure that the propeller was not going to. Pretty sure it wasn't going to actually hurt the guy. Or if it was, then it would have been. It was a little bit too soon for the show to end with the guy being killed by the propeller and having them not show much of it or whatever. But it was done well, and yeah, definitely recommend this entire series to everyone to check out. And even the shows, like I said, that I don't cover are done well. So let's see what's next here, and get to the next episode I want to review. Now, if I'm not mistaken, episode 3 of season 3 is also, the episode 3 of season 3 is also not paranormal in any way. So we are going to skip to episode 4 of season 3. And now, for anyone who, if you're curious about, if you'd like to see all these shows, I'm listening to them on Paramount Plus. This isn't an ad or anything, but that's just where I've been listening to them. So that is one option. I'm sure you can find. I know you can find season 1 of the Twilight Zone on other platforms, I think, for free, but I don't know for sure about the later seasons. You have to check on that. I just originally got Paramount Plus for the Star Trek shows because I was thinking of reviewing those. And I decided not to, but I found the Twilight Zone on there, so that kind of worked out for that as well. So this next show, this is season 3, episode 4, and this is called The Passers-By. So this is at the end of the U.S. Civil War. There's a Confederate Army sergeant walking down. This is how the show starts. Walking down a road, and he's using a crutch to get by, to walk, a wooden crutch, and he's carrying a dirty bedroll and a homemade guitar. And so he comes across a ruined mansion, which belongs to Lavinia Godwin, who is a widow whose husband was killed in the war, and of course she blames the Union forces for this event, but not just the people that were involved in his murder, but she blames them or killing, but she blames them all, the entire army, for that. So the sergeant is tired, and he asks Lavinia if he can sit on a bench under a dead tree in the front yard to relax, and she says yes, and he plays his guitar, and Lavinia recognizes the song as one that her husband used to sing, and so the two are there watching as soldiers from both sides of the war pass by the house and continue down the road. And the sergeant learns about Lavinia, who's not in the best health, and her husband and his death. So as they're talking, a Union lieutenant on horseback stops by the house to ask for water. And the sergeant there recognizes him. This is an amazing one, by the way. I'm just trying to fit this all in here. The sergeant recognizes this Union soldier as the one that saved his life in the war. Meanwhile, Lavinia, who is, again, holds resentment to all Union soldiers, retrieves an old shotgun and fires at this lieutenant. But to her surprise, he is not harmed. The blast from the shotgun passes right through him, and he remarks that nothing really matters anymore. And of course, Lavinia is shocked, and so is the sergeant. And the sergeant then remembers that the man who saved his life was then killed. And so he gives the lieutenant a drink of water from the well, and the soldier moves on his way. So here you have, for all intents and purposes, a ghost or spirit. So the night goes on, and the sergeant begins to understand that this isn't a normal road, and the people that are walking up and down the road are also not normal. And he tells Lavinia that there's something at the end of the road that he has to find. And so he gets up to leave, and Lavinia tries to convince him to stay. And they then hear a man's voice singing the same song the sergeant had played earlier on his guitar. And this voice is coming down the road. And it's Lavinia's husband, Judd. And, of course, he's dead. He was killed in the war. And Lavinia knows this, but he's right there. And after being, of course, initially very, very happy to see him, Judd tells her that everyone on the road that she sees going down the road, they're all spirits. They've all passed, and that it's not just everyone that's walking down the road. She is also already passed, and so is the sergeant. And so the sergeant sighs and decides to keep walking down the road. But Lavinia doesn't want to hear any of this. And so Judd tells Lavinia, his wife, that there's nothing left for him in that house. And starts going on down the road. Lavinia tries to stop him. Wow, I'm messing up all over the place with hers and hims tonight. Anyway, sorry about that. But he continues going on, and he reassures her that he will wait for her at the end of the road. And so Lavinia stays in front of the ruins of her old home, and there's more and more of these people that are coming down the road, and one of them, and I didn't realize this by just listening, but the last person to come down the road is Abraham Lincoln, the president. And he tries to comfort her and quotes a line from Shakespeare, and this sort of convinces Lavinia to also go down the road. And this is that's sort of when you figure out that this road, whether it is the road in the real world or not, it is the path to some kind of afterlife. So, and all this is done really well so that you don't realize what's happening until, again, the one soldier is shot at by Lavinia, and nothing happens to him. And it plays with this idea too of memory, and the idea that when you are, after you have passed, and this is something you've heard about and read about as possibly being the case, when someone passes and they are just consciousness or soul or spirit, however you want to call that, it can take them a while to remember and to figure out that they do not have a physical form anymore, that they have passed on from one type of existence to another. So yeah, just really well done show. And it doesn't really ever say if the road that everyone is walking down is the physical road, and if there's just a sort of a portal that's at the end of it leading to whatever the afterlife is, or if the whole world that everyone sees in the show is part of that afterlife, is the sort of the entrance way to it, or the process of entering whatever the afterlife is. So yeah, that one to me was amazing, the way it was done. And I find it also fascinating that in the show, because I listen to these now, I really don't watch much of them. Lincoln doesn't come out and say, "I'm President Lincoln." He just makes this quote from Shakespeare, and continues down the road. And so I think, let me see here. It actually does have the quote in the article here. So let me just read this quote from the that they used in the show from Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. It says, "Of all the wonders that I yet have heard, it seems to me most strange that men should fear, seeing that death, a necessary end, will come when it come." And that's the line that Lincoln used in the show. So, but that's it for that episode there. And so it was really neat to listen to. A lot of these shows you can just listen to and you'll still catch most of everything. I'm finding that out myself because of my low vision. It's easier just to listen. But then, of course, you can look up the episodes online and find out details that maybe you missed. So that's all for this episode of this show. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.